Reseller Clickbait Podcast, episode 95. What's
good,
up, Cory? I can't see anything.
Some Area 51 glasses.
These are like my solar eclipse. My solar eclipse glasses. I got to take these off because I don't even know if I'm looking like at the screen. Yeah, I got my solar eclipse outfit on today. This episode comes out Monday.
Oh, I guess you got the sun and the not the sun.
I got my yellow rim around the blackness of the solar eclipse because later
today. I just
have
a general dark.
That's just you.
Just dark in general.
You have a dark aura around you all the time.
I did see on Facebook they had, I got a notification on Facebook. Our local Casey's gas station has eclipse glasses.
Okay.
So apparently that's a thing.
Yeah, it is. So later today, this episode comes out on Monday morning, and later this afternoon around 3 o'clock something, we have a total eclipse in my area. At least we're in what they call the path of totality. I don't know.
Nobody's going to watch the episode because they're all going to be outside staring at the sky.
They're staring directly into the sun. Oh, here, I even made this just, helpful there. Don't stare directly at the sun. Little banner down at the bottom there. Yeah, so I'm excited. We got a total eclipse today, which only happens in every 100 years or so, or it depends on what area you're in. Sometimes they happen more frequent because there's always I'll turn that off. There's always an eclipse,
it seems like I remember
every year, every 18 months or something like that. But you get where you're in a path of totality where you can see the full thing only happens about once every 100 years or so. So I've got a while to wait for the next one. So I'm definitely going to see this one, and I'm going to be out there wearing my cool glasses. Shout out to KK Lewis. KK Lewis, my friend Carolyn, friend of Jill and I, and she sent these glasses to us right here.
Those are pretty snazzy.
They are.
I'm going to wait for photographs to come out on the interwebs. I'll just catch a picture of it. I'm not going to go outside and stare at the sun.
Yeah, I don't think your path, because a path of totality is only about 50 miles wide or something. So you got to be in a specific area. I mean, I'm sure that you'll see something of it because it's the sun, up there, and it's going to be blocked out. But we're excited in our area. It's supposed to be nuts around. They've closed most all of the businesses in town are closed. They closed the schools. They closed my postal store that I go to a lot is
people are closed. Strange creatures, aren't they?
Yeah, it is interesting. Well, they keep saying how the traffic around here, because so many people are coming into town around there. All the hotels are booked.
Just to stare at the sky.
Restaurants, just to stare up at the sky. And
it's like watching ants get involved in politics. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Exactly. So I'm super excited about that to see, and hopefully I won't stare directly into the sun.
Yeah, don't burn your retinas or anything.
There is a point when the moon is completely blocking the sun that you can safely take your glasses off and look up at the sun and see the whole eclipse without glasses on. So
now for a while,
it's neat.
There's this thing for a little while after we got out of the military, when my wife and I both came back from being stationed at the Army. I took a job as a welder, and I welded professionally for about 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
And it never failed if you told someone, don't look at the weld, don't look at the shiny light. They were going to look at the shiny light. So I expect a whole bunch of people to be rubbing their eyes the next day.
Yeah, the optometrists
get a lot of visits.
Will be visited. Yeah, because people are crazy. I did see in someplace, I think, it was when I was doing my Ken vs. 10 show last week, and I was talking about that, and Chad, Corky Picker, from over at the Full-Time Resellers podcast, he was saying he remembers an eclipse years ago when he was a kid.
I swear I remember.
And they had put out a big bucket of water or a big container of water out to catch the reflection. Then you could stare into the bucket and see the see the sun, see the whole thing, and it wouldn't damage your eyes. So I think that's pretty neat. I'm going to do that. I'm going to get a bucket or a
Could you just
baby
point
pool.
a camera at the sun and then go in and watch it on the computer?
No, I guess apparently it can also be damaging to your camera lenses and stuff. I'm sure if you have special cameras and filters and all of that stuff, but I think, I've heard stuff that they recommend not, pointing your phone camera and stuff right at the sun.
So I like to warranty that. You'd be like, I need a new phone. The sun broke my camera.
I stared directly into the sun through my phone. So it's super exciting.
Well, that'll be fun.
Yeah, it'll be neat.
For somebody.
My
I don't know who,
postal
but it'll be
store
fun.
is closed.
Are they really closing for the eclipse?
Yes, that's the reason. When I was in there the other day, the gal was on the phone with the FedEx representative. Both the UPS and FedEx are doing their early pickups at all the locations because they want all of their drivers off of the road by 2:00 that afternoon. Because apparently, I don't know. Apparently the traffic is supposed to be nuts. I would think. I mean, we're in a really good path right here where I'm at, and so there's a lot of people coming to the area, and it stretches up. It goes, towards Cleveland and stuff, and all over the United States in this one path down through Texas and stuff. I don't have
I didn't think people were that serious about it.
Oh yeah, it's nuts.
Like they're closing post offices and stuff. That's not.
Yeah, all the schools are closed. I had a guy last year comment on, I don't know what I was doing, and I sold something on eBay, and in the comments, or the buyer sent me a message because he seen where it was shipping from, and was asking me if I was excited about the eclipse. And I'm like, when is there eclipse? And he's like, well, it's in April in 2024. And this was like a sale I had in the first part of 2023. So people have been making plans to travel and to come. I saw a news story the other day about this guy that's been an eclipse chaser, because in different parts of the United States or in different parts of the world where this path of totality is. I keep doing that. That's my path of totality. I don't know if that's proper sign language or whatever,
See, I guess I have a whole different view on this, the whole space thing. When I remember sitting in a school auditorium watching the space shuttle go up and just explode in front of everybody while we were in class. And then they just said, nothing to see here, guys. Go back to class. And they sent us all back to class. And that, ever since then, it's like, okay, space program, whatever. I just stay out of it. I've never been that interested in space.
I love space stuff and the rockets, and that they're going to the moon, and then I'm not sure why they're going to Mars. I don't understand that. There's plenty of cool stuff.
Ooh, there's a good one. Do you think they actually went to the moon, or do you think that was faked?
I think that they went. I think that they went to the moon. I just can't understand why it's been so long since they've been there, and why it's taking, with all the technology and stuff that they have now, why it's taking, this 2-3 years, and they just sent up another moon rover or something like that to check stuff out. And
I think they just got to ask Elon to do it, and he'll go do it.
Yeah, exactly. That's I love space stuff. And so anyway, that's what I got going on for later today when this episode comes out. Anyway, I'll have my cool alien. You can't see anything. I have these bright lights. I have these LED
lights. I hope
lights.
The weather holds for you guys.
Right in front of me. It's supposed to be. Well, that's one of the things. It might be cloudy tomorrow, which
right
really
now, as we're recording this, the day before,
yeah,
we got a bunch of rain and just general miserable weather for the whole last night and this morning, and it's all heading your way. So hopefully you keep some clear skies for the eclipse.
It's gonna hold out. It's gonna be warm. We're actually having an event. Everything I do is an event, but my family is coming over. We've got a whole thing scheduled. Everybody's making food. We're gonna build a fire out in the fire for the eclipse. Yeah, we're gonna build fire out in the fire pit. We're gonna play some games. We're going to do everybody's going to hang out for the afternoon and stare at the sky. It's not at all surprised. It's going to be fun. Any opportunity, any excuse that my family can have to get together and do something and have fun and make it an event is
So do you not have any introverts in your family? Are they all just crazy people? I mean, extroverts.
There's probably a few, but they still come over. But yeah, everybody
I go
in
too.
my family is.
When we do family events, I go, but it's always begrudgingly.
Yeah.
It's like we have to go. It's not like we get to go.
Everybody in my family is like, woohoo, let's do it. Okay. And somebody brings it up. Oh, my sister is the one that's like, oh, we should do like an eclipse event. Everybody come over, we'll have build a fire, and
I'm just picturing like marrying into your family. Like the poor guy that marries into your family that's an introvert. He's like, oh.
That's probably why Jill hasn't moved over this way or whatever. Yeah. And in all these years, Jill's not an introvert. Jill is fun and a great event planner and game planner and stuff like that. She helps me tons when I do my Labor Day event.
I'm tired. Yeah, I'm tired just hearing about your celebrations and stuff. Like, they wear me down. Like, socially tired.
I just say everything we do is an event, but we can move on from that in my family events and stuff. Oh, you said about, I wanted to bring this up too. You had said about how your weather is cold and dismal and rainy, and we are supposed to be in the mid 70s for tomorrow. But yesterday I had to mow the lawn for the first time, and one should not have to wear gloves and a hat and a big heavy flannel coat to mow the lawn. It's like mowing the lawn is supposed to be
when you have to do that.
Well, it was, I thought I was going to have to go rent a bush hog or something like that. The grass was just it was out of hand, but all we've had is rain. Any day that the sun's out, it rains or it's cold, or we've had a few days here or there where it's been spitting snow.
You guys have gotten a lot better weather than us then, because I know when we talked last night, there's still snow piled up by our trees here. All the lawn is open now. The big open areas, they're all open, but there's still snow piled up on the trees. So we're right there. Spring is here.
Yeah, it's just taken so long. Winter just won't give up. I should have made a Ken complains about winter. Now Ken complains about spring.
Ken complains about mowing.
You know what I don't like? You know what I don't like is Mayflowers. Why? I don't like Mayflowers. Not like the
ship.
The ship. No, not the ship that brought the pilgrims over. Talking there's that saying that April showers bring Mayflowers. I would give up on some Mayflowers, some floral, some foliage, if you will.
Nah.
Just to get rid of the rain and the cold, and I don't need new growth of plants and flowers around my area.
We do.
Unless
the eclipse is gonna bake everything off and just a path of destruction. No, I get you. Yard work is. I look forward to it because it's relaxing for me. I like the yard work part. So spring and summer is fine by me.
I'm not a big fan of yard work. Usually my goal when I go out is the grass shorter than it was when I got on the mower. So it doesn't matter if I go, nice diagonal lines or in a square. It's just some of the time I'm mowing here, and the next thing you know, I'm at the back of the lot, and then I'm over here. It's just get this stuff knocked down and...
Well, it does give us more opportunity. It gives me more chances. The summertime gives me more chances to spend on my tractor or my mower, and that's the fun part for me. So now, I know we talked about there a little bit. There's actually a bit of an art to it too. So once you're into it, I think you would enjoy it. You have to have the right music. You can't just mow to anything.
Oh yeah, I definitely have my headphones in, and I got a playlist, and my playlist is so bizarre. It has absolutely everything on it, every genre. Oh, but you know what is cool though? When I was mowing, one of the most deafening sounds that there is a cha-ching in your headphones. I wear the earbuds that are pressed in there, and when you get a cha-ching, you're out just mowing, maybe you're singing a little bop or something like that. Maybe some Tony Orlando and Dawn. I do have some Tony Orlando and Dawn on my playlist. And then that cha-ching just, cha-ching, it just blast your head off. And then I just get the big smile. It's oh yeah, I can even do yard work and still make money. That's why reselling is
I think the loud cha-ching is a Samsung thing, because my iPhone, if I get a cha-ching while I'm playing music, mowing the yard or snow blowing or whatever, it's like Siri comes on and reads me a nice message. She's like, you got a message from eBay. You sold blah, blah, blah.
Oh,
like,
really?
It's not a loud cha-ching.
Oh, see, you need to change that so you can go deaf. You can go deaf. That's my goal. That's my goal, is to go deaf from cha-chings while I'm doing yard work.
We're already going to be blind from looking at this eclipse, and now we're going to lose our hearing too.
Yeah, exactly.
Just going to have to thumbnail this one. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. Yeah. So we're going to do a silent show for the last half.
I'm just sitting here like, oh, that's interesting, Cory. What?
Over here.
I'm like, oh, wait. Oh, it is to this side, I guess. See, I wouldn't even look to the right side, and I can see right now. I haven't even burnt out my retinas.
Speaking about yard work, we talked about getting a bonsai tree in one of our last episodes.
Yeah.
And I actually jumped down that rabbit hole a little bit further. I resold my first plant.
Oh, really?
Yep. I decided to give it a shot. So I went to Lewis. Like, do you guys have Lewis drugstores where you're at?
No.
It's like kind of like a Walgreens type store.
Okay,
so they have like a shopping area, but it's also a pharmacy and whatever.
Yeah.
And they have a plant section, and I bought one of their bigger house plants and brought it home and divided it up into like 6 pots, and then listed them on Marketplace. And I sold. So I spent $20 on the plant. Okay. And I sold 5 of them for $50, and then I kept one back so it could grow more. 50 total.
Oh, 50 total. Okay.
Yep. So I made $30 in an afternoon. It only took me 20 minutes to repot it and make the listing. So I did some retail arbitrage on plants.
Your new venture is selling plants. That's
going to open a nursery.
Grams and Pops foliage or whatever. I don't know. What you going to change
Pops plants. Yeah, it's not Grams. Grams doesn't want anything to do with it.
See, she's like me. She don't need Mayflowers.
No, she could kill a plastic plant. She does not do plants.
And Cory's got the green thumb right there. Okay, here's another thing. So I go out and we get the mower. Had to get a new battery. Had to go buy a new battery for the mower. The other one was 4 or 5 years old and sitting through the winter. We didn't bring it in because it was almost dying by the end of last year. So went out and did the maintenance on the mower, got the battery in, started it up, let it run, check the oil, change out the oil, make sure, clean the under deck a little bit. And then you got to fill it up with gas. This is one of life's mysteries. Why is it when you're filling a gas, the tank in your mower or whatever with a gas can, which I hate the new type of gas caps that they have. But if your gas cap leaks, like when you're pouring in your gas, maybe you didn't get it tight.
They all leak.
They seem to. Why is it that the gas never drips onto the engine or onto the ground? Why does it always drop directly on your shoes? Every single time.
It's like seasoning a piece of cast iron. They're seasoning those shoes. Those are your mowing shoes now.
Yeah, they're going to have to be. It seems every single time it drips straight down onto my shoes. And then now the can's got drips on the side because you try to pull it out and you're trying to tighten the lid up. And then now your hands smell like gas for the rest of the day. And
if they wouldn't use those new nozzles, they probably wouldn't leak as bad. Because now, clear at the end of the nozzle, you got to push a little button in, and then you got to pull a spring back, and you got to get the can in there and hook it on the lip, and you got pressure going 3 directions, tearing on that cap. So all the caps leak. I don't know who invented those, but they don't deserve to be among us. The safety of gas cans now is just they prohibit, especially when you got the little can, you're trying to fill a weed eater or something like that. Maybe I have a couple of the old style caps around still, and I save those.
Whenever I'm at yard sales and stuff like that, I always look at when they have gas cans and stuff for sale. I always look to see what the style of
if I ever see the old style ones, I snag them.
So I don't know. It's the same thing happens with the gas dripping on your shoes. I was thinking about that. It's like when I get ice out of the freezer, I have an ice maker, and so I go to get a handful of ice. Every single time, it doesn't matter. I drop a piece of ice on the floor. I don't know. Usually.
Well, I have dogs,
and I'm trying to
that's never an issue here.
Well, mine is, it's like the gas dripping on your shoes. Why is it that every time I drop a piece of ice, it goes under the stove?
Oh.
Like, it's because the stove is like right beside the refrigerator. It's like, why doesn't it just drop down on the ground, like right there? I have like a rug in front of the thing. And so it drops out and then right under the stove every time. So now I've got to
never make it there.
Get like a yardstick or whatever.
I think our dogs hear the ice falling. Like they don't even hit the ground. They hear it falling and they're in there. So they snatch it up too quick.
See,
never gets a chance.
Maybe I ought to get a dog. Just because, get a dog. I'm constantly, putting ice in my cup. Although this is an Arctic, it's not a Stanley or a Yeti, but the Arctic does really good. Do you know that different types of sodas or different types of drinks melt ice at a different rate? I may have talked about that once before.
Seriously?
But yeah, okay. So like,
I've never heard this.
I usually always drink Coke Zero. That's most of the time when I do have soda in here. It might be water in the cup. I don't constantly drink Coke Zero, but most of the time, 99% of the time. But every now, if I put like regular Coke melts the ice in my cup significantly faster than Coke Zero does. It's kooky. It's like, how's come I have to keep, like if I have regular Coke, how's come I have to keep putting ice in this? I need to do a science experiment.
I feel like we got to test this.
I did. I tested. Well, I did a bunch of research about it, and this has been, you need
to publish
6 months ago, or it has to do with the amount of sodium, the amount of salt that are in the different beverages.
That makes sense.
What will melt the ice quicker? And so Coke, obviously Coke has a lot more sodium in it than the Coke Zero does, and so hence the melting of the ice. There's a whole lot more factors that go into it than just the sodium and the sugars and what breaks down the ice and the type of ice, whether you have cubes or whether you have crush or whether it's I went down that whole rabbit hole at one point and
and this has been your episode of Ken Bill Science Shill.
Yeah.
We're learning stuff today.
Ken Bill, this is the good. Science Shill. That's funny.
I never thought of that. Anyway. I would, if you would have told me that, I would have said you're wrong, but that's cool. No, it makes sense.
It's significant enough that I noticed it. And I got the thing. It's like, why did that happen? It's like, under normal conditions, wherever my cup is sitting, it's not like I had the Coke when my cup was sitting outside when it was 80 degrees. It's just like, in the house normal. So yeah, try it out. Try your own experiment. Let us know how it goes
in
the comments down below.
We are a cherry Pepsi house. That's my drink of choice. Teresa drinks that Celsius crap, whatever that is. I don't touch any of that kind of stuff, but I drink cherry Pepsi at the moment. And next month it might be something different.
Yeah.
I change. I get bored of drinks.
Stick with salt, and I buy the Coke Zero in 2 liters. I buy 2 liters, and for some reason I don't know, the Coke distributors, like, there'll be this whole big section of regular Coke that's all filled, and then they have like 2 rows of Coke Zero that's never there. It's like, don't they see that? Don't the guys see that the Coke Zero is always gone? If you like maybe had 4 or 5 rows of Coke Zero and less of regular Coke. I don't know. That's bothersome. Sometimes it's hard to find the Coke Zero in the 2 liters. It
should be hard to find. It's disgusting.
I almost clicked off. I almost ended the podcast.
It's the end of the podcast right here.
I don't know. So we'll move along. How's your bracket looking? Cory?
It's holding up the shelf right down there. There it is. Right there.
No, not. I did notice you have a new background back there. Got some new shelving and some new lighting and stuff. That looks.
Yeah,
that's looking good.
We were on a picture taking phase for our storage unit stuff, and this is one of the. Let's see, this shelf was in one of our storage units. It's a little too beat up to sell, so instead of using it as a normal cube shelf, I tipped it upside down or sideways.
Yeah,
and then hung it up on the wall. I figured it'd make a good shelf in here.
Yeah, it makes a nice backdrop for you there. But no, that's not the bracket. I was talking about your March Madness bracket, because I think tonight the championship game is on. If you've been following along, your bracket's probably decided. I didn't win. In the reseller.
Is the last game tonight?
Yeah, I think the championship, I'm pretty sure it's tonight.
Well, if it's the last game, then everybody wins. Because it's over. So we're all winners.
Let me see, is the final, I think the final game is tonight. I don't know. I don't have time to look at it. All I know is that I'm not going to win. I was in that bracket with some other resellers that Tim over the years over at the RIN, the Reseller Information Network, had put together a bunch of other resellers, and it looks to me like I'm probably going to finish third.
Third,
and Tim is the odds-on favorite right now to win the whole thing.
Well, he's a sports ball guy. I would think he'd have all the stats on lock.
Yeah, he
kind of knows how to pick them.
Pretty good bracket there. Let me see. I don't know what the ending is. Yeah, but he's currently in first. And King of Pennants, Andy, from over at the Pastime Picks podcast with him and Keith's Vintage Sports Flips. He is in second, and I am in third, and then everybody else from there. Rod picking and punching. Leroy. Oh, Leroy is it? Speaking of Leroy, you are on another show this week. You and
gonna be live
Teresa
with Leroy.
Yes, on the picking and grinning at the barn with Buck and Roy. I'm picking
Buck and Roy. We're gonna have banjos and everything.
Did you ever watch Hee Haw? Did you watch Hee Haw when you were younger? You know, and they would. I'm picking. And I'm grinning, and they would do their...
My folks watched Hee Haw. We were young at the time, so we saw it by proxy, just because it was on.
Back when you only had like 3 channels that were on.
Yes.
And, you know, when Hee Haw
was on, the remote.
Yes. Yeah. Go change the channel. You have to get up, go to the actual TV and do the knob. Man, we're old. But...
yes, we are.
So, yeah. I'm not going to win that.
Yeah, check that out on the 11th. That one should be fun. We're going to go hang out with Leroy and Brad and Chris over there at well, it's the Buck Mountain Barn channel. So we'll put a link below. That'll be like 6 o'clock on the 11th, I believe. Teresa and I will both be on there.
6 o'clock, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central.
Yep.
Yeah, on Thursday the 11th, that comes out alive. So yeah, definitely check that out. Yep. It'll be good fun to see those guys. I haven't watched their show yet. You had been telling me about it because you found them recently and we're watching it. And I
found them by accident because they skipped a week on that channel. They do a weekly live, and they skipped a week because one of them was gone. So they had the live on Leroy's channel, I believe.
Okay.
And I caught it because I'm subscribed to Leroy's channel.
Yes.
And then I was sucked into it. Then I just went back and started watching a bunch of them. And they do a pretty good job over there. So I'm excited to talk to the guys.
Yeah, I'm interested. This it'll be like I'll probably catch up on a couple of episodes here before you're on the show this week, just to familiarize it, because I don't know the other fellas that are on the show. I'm a big Leroy Blood, Sweat, and Cell fan.
I was gonna say anytime you get a chance to hang out with Leroy for an hour.
Oh yeah, he's just a great guy. So go check them out on Thursday. And also for your viewing pleasure, if you check it out, I will be on This Week in Reselling podcast over with Ray from the Nashville Flippers.
On the same day.
On the same day. His will come out as a pre-record. I think we're supposed to record on Wednesday. And then I think his new episodes come out on Thursday. So there you go. You can watch. I don't know what time the Ray show comes out. I should look into that. I should have known.
Either way, we've got you covered for Thursday.
Yeah,
like Thursday's a big day.
A little more SSKPromo, a little more Cory, Grams and
Teresa will be with me, so it won't be just me.
Oh, which will be perfect because everybody prefers Teresa. Everybody prefers Grams over Pops for sure. I can tell you that much. I watch your content, and I think when you do that split screen, I think if you just moved the screen
into the middle,
It would be a much better show.
Just put credits on my side. Just run credits the whole time.
It'd just be this random voice. And then I think you ought to do it like, like when Charlie Brown's teacher's talking from the side. And Teresa will just laugh and go, "Oh, Cory." And then,
it's funny when I edit our episodes, the one thing that drives me crazy is every time I talk on one of our shows, Teresa's on the other side of me yawning. As soon as I start talking, she starts yawning. So I'm constantly having to make cuts or put me full screen for a minute and then come back, or put a comp over top or something to hide the fact that every time I speak, Teresa yawns. So that's why it takes me so long to edit, because I bore the hell out of Teresa.
I feel your pain, Teresa. I understand. Hit me up on IG. We'll get our own group. Get our own group together.
It's not fair.
Life with Cory. So anyway,
Cory.
We had started a topic last 2 weeks ago, and then last week we never got to the topic. And number one, because Cory prepared for the wrong part of the show, and number two, we were just having fun.
I was prepared to wing it. We just didn't make it there.
This and that, but we were talking on the phone one night, and we just about things that we could do better, things that we could do that we were inefficient in some things, and just kind of looking at our reselling business, our business model processes. There you go. And trying to decide, and we broke it down into 3 categories. To be a reseller, first of all, you got to have some inventory. You got to buy stuff. And so we had buying, and then you've got to list that stuff. You've got to get that out there on some market, some platform. And then you've got to ship it.
Yep.
Is kind of ship it and inventory it and that sort of stuff, have a place. And so 2 weeks ago, we had talked about kind of the buying aspect and looked at the things that we have, how we are buying stuff, and what we are doing after the buy to kind of have this organized and ready for the next phase, which is kind of the listing phase. So go back 2 episodes. Well, go back last episode and watch that one, because that could use some help. It could use some views. It was a great show. I enjoyed it. It was fun. We just mostly nonsense the whole time.
Yeah, it didn't do well.
No, it didn't. And it might be that cruddy thumbnail that I made.
I think our audience doesn't like Easter bunnies or something.
That must have been it. Bite the head off of a chocolate bunny. I should have done that live on air. But anyway, so 2 episodes, we talked about the buying aspect and things in our business that we could do better. And so now we're up to the listing portion of it, after the buy and after that stuff's organized, taking a look at how we do stuff. Yeah. And what could we do better? What do we see as a downfall or a pitfall? And all of this is not to say to people, "Oh, this is the way that you should resell." It's again back to ask that question.
It is.
Ask the question. That's what it's all about. If you're not doing it our way, you're probably not that good.
You should never do it our way. I think that's the point. We're going to show you how to do it wrong, so you know how to do it right.
I should have brought that up in the beginning. Don't pay attention to anything that we say. But overall, when we get to the listing part, okay, you got to buy it right. First of all, you got to buy it right. You got to be ready to list it. What things in our business can we do to make it better? And I've set this up 6 times now, so I guess we should just get into the topic.
Just jump in.
Just jump in. Well, here's my problem, Cory. Is I touch my stuff too much.
That's it. That's it. We're done. Episode is over.
I spend so much time touching my stuff, Cory, that I can't get my reselling business done. No, that's that really didn't come out right. I touch
perfect.
I touch
Way
my
to follow
inventory.
up an Easter episode.
I touch my inventory too much, and that kind of goes through the if I were to sum up my whole reselling business, that's one of the main inefficiencies that I have. So, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit of where we're at. So why don't you, Corey wiping his eyes over here. It's
killing me. Old smooth hands Ken over here.
I don't, would this be a good time or not to bring up dude wipes? As far
for whatever mess life throws at you.
Oh, we're off the rails again.
That's a good point, for real. Like
yeah,
touch points on the inventory. I think you got to minimize how many times you're moving it around. I think we're guilty of that. I think it's because I know when we started talking about this, one of the things we noticed right away was just the way we go about listing, the way we go about choosing products to list.
Yeah.
Like they're all just in a giant death pile, and then we go over there and we cherry pick.
Yeah.
And sometimes we'll pick something up and we'll be like, oh, this needs cleaned or tested, and we'll put it back.
Yes.
Or sometimes we'll pick something up and we find out, well, this is going to take more research than I want to do, so we put it back.
Yeah. Guilty.
So I think that's the biggest, I would say that's almost one of the biggest inefficiencies in our listing.
Yeah.
Is we give ourselves the ability to do that.
I agree. It is easy to cherry pick those easier items, leave those ones behind that are harder. I have noticed though, looking at this stuff is I am actually more efficient and get stuff listed when I pick if it's in the pile or in a bag or in a box. You go yard sailing or whatever, and I usually have like the IKEA bags and stuff in my car, or I have some different tubs and I load it up in there, and then that bag gets brought in, sat on the table, and then I'm trying to go through and sort it and organize it and make it. I like to list stuff in like items. Like I'm going to list all hats this day, or I'm going to list all electronics or something. And what I have found, and when I do that, okay, it's like, let's say I list all hats. All of a sudden, I seem to get a boost in that particular category. And it's not necessarily that I'm selling the new hats that I just listed. I start to sell some of the older hats as well.
Yeah.
And or maybe I list a bunch of new hats and I don't sell any of the new hats, but I'll sell 2 or 3 old hats. And so I try to do that in that category. But that gets to be inefficient. Going through all the bags, trying to find the different items.
I've heard that from several people where they say, make yourself more efficient. Go if you're going to list jeans, list all jeans that day.
Yes.
Because you're taking the same picture and the same measurements. And I love that idea. But in reality, when we're going to the death pile list or we're going to our pile of stuff we need to list, they're not in that order. And you're going to spend an hour just trying to find like items.
Yes.
And then you do open yourself up to cherry picking again because you're like, well, I don't want to list those. I want to list these today.
Yes.
So I think for us, the only way we could make that really efficient is to do first in, first out. Like actually go through and when we get them on the shelf, we have a receiving shelf. And as they're on that shelf in the order they were put there, we deal with them. So if they need tested and cleaned, we do it. And we get them on the listing shelf. And then we list them in the order they hit that shelf. And don't deviate. Don't pick out of order. Like if it's here and that's what's in front of you today, you have to list that and get it inventoried.
Which, part of that goes into when you go out to the sales or however you do your sourcing, and you buy something, when you buy it right then, you're excited. It's like, oh, this is a good find. This is a good pick. I bought it at a good price, and you bring it home and you're excited about that day's pickings. And I think if you can list that stuff while it's still fresh in your mind of comps that you might have did out at the sale, and you get it listed, you're going to be more excited about it rather than all the stuff that I have in my death pile that at one day I was super excited about it. And now it's just like, it seems a burden to
I
have
wonder
to
if you
list
make
it.
that I wonder if you make that the exception. Everything comes in and goes out in the order it came in. So we have a receiving area. We don't, by the way. We talked about this in the last episode. We need a receiving area. We need to get organized that way. But we need to set up a receiving area to where we have to process it out at the same order it came in. But we only do our listing. We do our listing about 2 days a week. We spend a whole day, 2 different days in the week, just creating drafts for listings.
Okay.
So on those 2 days, I think we should process it in the order it's on the shelf. Period. No exceptions. Yeah. And then on the days like Thursday when we go out and do our sourcing, If we bring something home that we're really excited about and we want to list that, that's extra. Go ahead and list it. Like, who cares? That's just extra. But the rest of it goes on the shelf in the order it came in. And on Tuesday and Wednesday on our listing days, we don't deviate. We stay on it. I think that's probably the type of process. That's not what we do. I'm saying that's probably what we should do. For Teresa.
Well, and that's what this kind of conversation that we were having, why we started with these topics, is looking at those things and what could we do that's more efficient. And for you, that's and I agree with that. And listing all of the same things, like I said, if I'm going to list all hats or all electronics, works out well for the actual the boost, I guess, that you get in that category, but it's not efficient for my listing because all of those things, it's like now I'm holding things. It's like, well, I bought these, 4 or 5 hats at sales today. Well, I will wait on those until I have more hats and I list them, because it does work out well if you are listing all things in one certain category. It does make it easier. I think you can list them faster.
You can, yeah.
So when you're just, you said you were just listing 2 days, like 2 days a week, your Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but you're not like putting them all up and that's it. You do like a draft bank sort of thing. You said you just draft so that each day, of those other days that you're not listing, you drop X amount of items or so many dollars worth of items, or
we drop $500 a day in items, however many that comes out to. And we just when we list, we just build that draft bank up.
Now let me ask you this, Cory, as I like to say. Well, okay. Now let's say you process that stuff first in, first out. Okay. And you're doing that drafts on Tuesday and Wednesday. Mm-hmm. When you go to release them, are you going to release them on the first in, first out basis, or will you cherry pick your draft bank and say, okay, today I'm going to list 10 electronic items or $500 worth of clothing or something like that? Do you cherry pick
I suppose
your draft bank?
You could do it however you wanted to, I guess, but and in terms of releasing a bunch of electronics at once or something, I could see some benefit to that. But we go from the bottom up. We do it in the order it came in, because if we start cherry picking, there's going to be some things that just never leave the draft bank. Okay. Then they're going to be a death pile in the draft bank. So we do them in the order they come in.
That's a little bit more efficient if they're already listed and that at any given time you can push that button.
Well, they're not, because then they're sitting, once they're listed and they're in our draft bank ready to be published. Then the problem is they're actually in our inventory. Like, they're in our inventory system. Yeah. And we need that space. So they got to get listed as soon as possible. Like, they can't just sit in the draft bank.
And then put into your tubs on your shelf, which we had kind of decided in our conversation that we would put that inventory part as part of like the shipping, the third thing. My biggest hang up, and as I look at this, is the photographing of items, and
that's the part I don't mind.
That's where my bottleneck is, and I find myself, and this is where I touch my items too much. Of course, I touch them when I bought them, and then I bring them in, they sit in a bag, and now part of my buying thing is to get this stuff, there's receiving area, the same that you were talking about, to get that stuff organized. I think as part of that, I might start doing my photographs right then. Just have a set timer as soon as I bring the stuff in. If it's not, I keep all of this, everything, all of these topics kind of encompass one another. We're breaking it down into 3, but if I bring something in, rather than putting it on a shelf or whatever, I am going to try to source things that are more list ready. That's I can, and I think in the buy, if I have things that I can, that are ready to set on the photo table and take a picture of, that's going to make me more efficient. Of course, that doesn't happen because
in a perfect world, but that's something Teresa and I talk about all the time. Buying intentionally, like really being careful and buying intentionally things that are good and ready to list and have a good sell through rate. But when you get out there, like, I don't care how long you do this. Eventually, when you get out there, you're going to buy something in a box lot. You're going to buy bulk.
Yeah.
You're going to buy a table worth of stuff. You're going to buy a locker or a storage unit. Like, you're going to get things with your purchase that you're going to have to deal with. And those kind of things is what throws a wrench in the whole system for me.
Yes.
Because then I get to these things that I have to research. I'm not sure if they're worth money. I'm not sure if they're not. And they're just things I didn't want to deal with, but I ended up getting them with a box of whatever else I bought.
True.
And that's where the whole process for me, that's where it goes off the rails. Like, completely kills the system.
So many different elements to, as I'm just sitting here thinking of all these other things, but that my biggest inefficiency, I think, is the way that I actually list stuff, because I don't like to do the photography part of it, even though out in my new office, I have a really great photo setup. I mean, you can, boom, it's not like this little tiny area that I had back here behind me. It was, I can set an item down anywhere. It's well lit. I can snap the photo. The way that I normally list stuff is I'll sit down at the computer, because I list a lot of my stuff on the PC and not on the phone. Is I'll sit there with the pile of stuff that I'm going to do, and I research it. I go do, some comps. I do the sell similar. I might build a new layout or whatever, a new listing for it. Or I like to use templates as well when I am. That's where, when we went back to listing the same sorts of things, I have templates for like hats and plush and vinyl albums and other different products where I can call that template up. And I know that those are going to be a lot of the same. Like, most every time a hat is going to be in an 8-ounce. For me, I ship a lot of them in an 8x6x4, unless it's a larger hat or has a flat bill that doesn't fit in there. But they're all going to be around that 8-ounce mark. I can have all of that stuff filled in there.
You can put some curve to that flat bill, and then they'll fit right in that box.
Yeah, but if I photographed it as a flat bill, I want to ship it as a flat bill, and I want it to come. And I don't want somebody to come and go, oh man, that was a nice looking, flat bill, and now you've got
that is a whole style of hat. That's a style of hat I've never been able to wear.
It is. No, I'm not a fan of that. But anyway, so so I sit down, I make my drafts for all of these items. So I'm taking them. I got a scale right there by my computer. I weigh the stuff. I know I have everything in there except for the photographs. Now I am going back to I'm taking all of those items, touching them again to put them on the photograph table and do all of that stuff. Then I'm going back over, and I have to open up each of the listings again to add the photographs. And at that time, once I add that photograph, the listing is done. I've completed everything up to that point.
That's similar to how Teresa does her listings. It's close to how she's doing hers. I don't do mine that way, but.
So what is different? What do you do that's different? Are you taking your photographs first and then you have them ready to go?
I do when I touch an item, like if I pick an item off the shelf and I'm going to list it, I list it all the way through. I did the whole thing. I won't put that item down. It's not going in a tote that needs photographed. Like, it's going to go start to finish until it's in the inventory. So I do everything on my phone. I'll make sure it's cleaned and tested or whatever, and get it over on the photo
that's what I remember. That's what we were talking about in our conversation, where you are actually taking your photographs from within the eBay app.
Yep.
Right.
So I'll look it up on my phone and do the research. If I have the item, I'll do the research and I'll find the comps and I'll actually create the draft. And once the draft is created, I'll actually hit the first section is the photo section. I'll hit add.
Yeah.
And take all my photographs right there in the app on the phone.
In the app.
Yep. And then
those photographs are never saved on your phone at all. They just go directly into the app.
I think it does save them in the app, in the phone on the background when you do that still.
Okay.
But I go through and delete them all when I leave the shop. I don't leave anything on the phone.
Yeah.
Once they're photographed, for me they're pretty much done at that point. I have to basically look over and find out where I have room for them so I can inventory them.
Yeah.
But the only real piece of the listing part of that I have to do after I've photographed them and save that draft is to go over, and we have a worksheet that we work on. That as soon as the draft is created, I copy the title and paste it into our worksheet with the price we bought the item for. and the price we're selling it for. And I put those in the worksheet.
Okay.
And once that's in there, I tell Teresa that one's complete. And it's just ready to go out with the rest of our drafts as she drops our listings, because she's the one that makes them active.
Well, you are definitely already touching that item less than I am, because you're touching it once and completing the listing, where I'm touching it, then touching it again to move to the photo area, then touching it again when I am finishing my draft up. And that's my biggest inefficiency, is how many times I've handled this item from the buy all the way to, you're obviously always going to have to handle it again when you go to the shipping part, but in that middle process, and then if I have to clean something and I have to test something, then you're working with that again, because you're never going to get away from that stuff. But I think the actual listing, if I took all of those photographs, once I had if I brought it in and it was ready to go, if I took all of those photographs right then, I would be able to sit down, do the listing, and I also have a scale by my photo area, where, like, sometimes I'll weigh the item, or take all my pictures and then set it on the thing and snap a picture of what it weighs, and then that way, if I go to the listing, I have that photo right there. I don't have to touch it again to put it on the scale by my computer. It just, I again, to faux pas again, I touch my stuff too much, Cory. And
I think where we have more touch points, or for me anyway, is the beginning of the process. I'll pick an item up off our shelf and I'll move it 6 times to avoid listing it.
Okay.
And that's the efficiency we need to correct by doing them first in, first out type.
Okay.
That's what that would fix for me, because I do pick stuff up a dozen times and move it because I don't want to list it today, or I don't want to test it today, or I'm waiting to get 6 more of them so I could list them as a lot, or whatever the goofy reason is. I move them around a lot in the beginning. Once I have the item and I put it on the bench, then it's over, because I just do the whole process. Like, I'll photograph it, I'll weigh it, I'll put everything in, I'll put the inventory location in, I'll put it in the sheet. Now Teresa, on the other hand, she does her listing completely different. One of the things she does when she lists that drives me absolutely crazy, she'll create a draft and take pictures and everything else, and then she'll leave it in the drafts because it's not ready yet, because she hasn't done any research on the item, so she doesn't price it. Like, I will not draft an item without a price.
Okay.
I have to do my research and price the item first, so I know what it's going to sell for before I'll ever create a draft out of it. But Teresa will create a draft and then go research for price after she's all done with the listing. Like, setting the price is the last thing she does, and drives me crazy.
Yeah, I see that's a little backwards in my thinking too, because number one, well, I guess at some point I've already comped that item, unless it's something, okay, if I directly was at a yard sale or a thrift store or whatever, and I bought the item, I already know that it's sale worthy. I suppose if you're picking something up from in a box lot or out of a storage unit, and if you're going through all of that work and then you don't know if it's going to be of a good enough price to make it worth listing.
Yeah, a lot of times she already knows it's worth listing, but she'll go she'll grab a set of iPods to list. She'll take a picture of them and she'll create the draft. She'll search for iPods. She'll create a draft off like the first good one she sees, but she's not sorting it to get the current retail price for it. She doesn't know what the actual running price is. She's not looking at solds at that point. She's just she's looking it up strictly to create a draft from. Yeah, and then she'll go research the price later before she gets ready to finalize the listing. And I always go into our drafts and I look, because I want to see how much stuff is selling for. I'm always curious, like, oh, what did those actually comp out at? What are they going to sell for? She said, I don't know. I haven't done that yet. I'm like, what do you mean? It's in the drafts.
I do a combination on my listing of using my phone and my computer, but the pricing is usually, I'll go through and, a little hint, tip, or suggestion that I would have for stuff is if I'm going through and I find some good sales comps on it, and I find a listing that might have a title or something that I want to use, and I do the sell similar, and put it in the drafts. When I do the sell similar, before I close that out, is I go through and I put the pricing in there already, because it's fresh in my mind of all of the sales comps that I just looked at. And so I'll put that pricing in there, and then I'll save that for later. And then when I go back to my drafts and on the computer, I know at least that's in there. Now all I got to do is put in the weights and then, description and the particulars.
Fill in the
photos.
Details. Yeah, the price for me is one of the first things. That's the thing I'm most focused on when I go to pick something up, is to research it, get the correct price in, then fill in the details.
Now, you had said something that all of your listings you take, then you have a sheet or a spreadsheet or something that you work with where you're going over and putting down your buy cost and where are you using that info later that's beneficial to you? Is that part of like for tax season, or what is that listing for? For
me, I don't like it. I like being able to go back. We use it, or at least I use it mostly to go back and say, okay, here's storage unit, and we'll sort everything by where we got it based on the storage unit. Okay. And I'll be able to tell, okay, we broke even on that storage unit, and now we still have $8,000 worth of listings on that storage unit that is all profit. So I use it for that. But with Teresa, she'll use it like she does when she goes to do the taxes, everything's itemized. Like she could tell you what dry erase board and markers we bought from the third garage sale we went to in August of the first year we started doing this, and how much we paid for it, and like she itemizes everything for the taxes.
So as part of that, as part of that list that you're keeping, you're putting where you got the item as well.
Well, it's only for lots. Like if it's just if we just pick it up at a normal garage sale, she doesn't necessarily put where we got it. It just goes in our general sheet. We have a general sheet, and then we have a bunch of copies of the general sheet. So if we buy a storage unit, she'll put storage unit number, whatever. Yeah. And just make a fresh copy, and then all of our listings for that unit will go in that. Okay. So only for big lots like that do we keep a special sheet.
So what are some other things? Work. This whole conversation too is that, if people are following along and listening, is to ask yourself these questions. Look at your whole entire process. Where am I? Sometimes I just do things because that's the way that I've just always done them. And as I've looked at it, it's like, well, that's just kind of dumb. That's inefficient. And I think just asking yourself that question of, in this progression of things that I do, what's one step? What's one thing? What could I do to speed this up? Or could I combine a couple of things that I do to either touch the inventory less, to be more organized when you're going to take your photographs? In what order? I think I'm going to start doing that, taking my photographs, if I can, before it, like after the receiving, before it kind of gets onto a shelf of receiving or pre-listing. I'm going to start taking those photos. And I think that's going to help. Now when I sit down, I have the photos. I can complete a listing, much like you are doing. And I think that's going to make me more efficient. I started to bring up something there earlier about trying to list things in the same grouping, of stuff, and how that is a little inefficient because you don't always have all the stuff, and it's in a different bag, in a different tote, or something like that. Where I have been the most efficient, or not the most, but more efficient lately, is just grab a bag. I grab an IKEA bag, I grab a box, I grab a tote, and I address everything that's in that bag, and I list it, regardless of category. If it's something that needs cleaned, I clean it. If it's something that needs tested, I test it. So one listing might take me a while to get done because, well, I had to hook up this, cassette deck to a receiver, and I had to test it, or these shoes, the soles and stuff needed to be scrubbed, and they need to dry a little bit, or whatever the thing is. The
same thing that first in, first out, it forces you to deal with it, even if that's not the one you would cherry pick. I think that's probably one of the most beneficial things I think anybody can do. It's just,
I get that.
Give yourself no option. If it's on the shelf, deal with it.
Yes. And that's I have been more efficient with that as of late, doing it that way. And then there's some stuff that's in a bag or a box that I'm like, why the heck did I pick this up?
That's a good point.
You didn't notice that something was broken. It's like, okay, that's going to go in this box for a yard sale, or for a donate, or for, whatever. Or maybe I do find something that's doesn't have as high a value, or is not as good, and maybe I'm going to put that on, like a whatnot auction, not because it's an inferior item at all. It's still a good item, but for whatever reason, I'm not going to deal with selling that on eBay. I am working on a new strategy, and that we won't go into that here, but I am working on a new thought process for how I want to, the progression of items, so that things are not sitting on my shelf forever, that are not getting any traction, that are not selling. That's a combination of when I list it, that as far as taking offers, as far as the promotions, as far as a sale on an item, and then if it's not getting any heat or any traction, a relist or a sell similar to kind of refresh that, giving it a little bit of time, and then saying, this item isn't going anywhere. That's right. I'm going to pull it down, and I'm going to put it on yard sale. I'm going to donate it. I'm going to do whatever. Yep. Let's just move along. It's something I've been thinking through, and I think that will make my business more efficient, not my listing process. So what else do you have? What are some other inefficiencies that you're looking at?
Well, the rest of our store is perfect.
That's it.
Now, I think it gives you an opportunity, like you were saying, if you're forcing yourself to deal with that kind of stuff on the shelves instead of pushing it off. I think it also makes you look at your items a little bit differently. I'm way less, if I have to deal with this box that's in front of me, I'm way less likely to leave it on the shelf and say, I want to deal with that because those items have some value. But if I have to deal with it, I'm going to force myself to, then I'm going to take that box out. And if there's stuff that I just genuinely am not going to want to deal with, or they're not a good enough value, I'm going to be way more likely to say that's a donate pile, or that's a take that to, sell on a garage sale or throw it on marketplace. I'm way more likely to get rid of items rather than keep them just because they have some value if I'm forced to deal with them. So I think forcing yourself to deal with it is the key. And then go ahead.
Don't you feel a whole lot better? Like when that thing is finally listed? Well, when they're gone for sure. And I'll talk about that in a second. But it's like this thing has been like this albatross, around my neck. That's it. I've been not dealing with it. And then you finally deal with it and you get it listed. And it's like you feel better about your day. You feel a little more like you accomplished something rather than that cherry picking the easy stuff. And I can list a lot more of the cherry picked easy stuff. Maybe I list half of the stuff that day, but I got these items addressed. I got them off my shelf. I got them listed, and now they're in inventory for sale. And I'm always surprised. It's like, and get upset with myself. Why didn't I list this early? Because I listed it in 2 days, 3 days, 4 days later, it's gone because it was a good item. At one point in time, I did make a good choice on buying something, and then I made a poor choice on not getting it listed for whatever reason.
Now, if you told me 5 years ago that there was going to be a point in my life where seeing a shelf get emptied would bring me genuine joy, I would have thought you were crazy. But if you're listing stuff and dealing with it, and you clear off an actual shelf on your death pile, and you see a whole empty section, that's a good feeling. Like it is when you actually get after it and start emptying that shelf. That's a great thing.
It is. So any other points, Cory, before we wrap this up? Any other points that you want to say about your
the only other thing that I think
when it comes to reselling?
The only other thing I think we'll probably do is, like you were talking about, listing similar items. If we have items that we run into now and then that aren't worth enough unless we lot them up, we get those, so they're not worth dealing with. I think we'll set a box somewhere, and that's, say it's I don't know, cars, the little Hot Wheels cars.
Hot Wheels,
and we're going to build a lot of them. If we know we're going to keep picking them up to build a lot, we'll put a container of them somewhere, and we'll just put them in there every time we buy them until it's full, and then we'll deal with them. But other than that, I don't think we'll save things like that anymore. Like that, yes.
Like this.
So if we're going to build a lot, we'll do it intentionally, is what I'm saying. And we won't just have those cars in 50 locations in our inventory.
Yes.
We'll deal with them as we get them, and we'll get rid of them. We won't just let them sit there or say we're going to lot them up. If there's not a box for it, we're just going to start getting rid of stuff.
Yeah, that's just, this has been cool as researching information for the show, for each episode, having to really look at those processes and say to myself, what am I doing? What am I not doing? I can't, I would like to say that motivation well, motivation is one of my inefficiencies, but that's not something that's a process that I can, that's just something personal that I have to work on.
Seeing a shelf of stuff that you don't want to deal with is pretty demotivating.
Yes, it is.
And now, if you have that organized and it's just, okay, I got 20 minutes to go knock out the next thing on the shelf, it's a lot easier to motivate.
Yeah.
It's a lot less demotivating.
When at the end of the day, I always go to bed and sleep better when I've had a good productive day, especially in the listing. And I get a number of days where I've worked all day. I did something in my reselling business, but at the end of the day, I
didn't feel like it.
Didn't really accomplish anything. I put up no new listings. I have nothing new in the draft. But in those days, then I just kind of go to bed like, I failed today. And it's not really a failure because I did work. I did do stuff that was towards my business. But when I go to bed and I've met my goal that day or whatever of how many items or how much dollar worth I want to list, I feel better. And it's easier to get up the next day because I don't feel behind already. And
I know I get overwhelmed. I get overwhelmed really easy. If I go out and look at that shelf and I could pick any item and there's 400 items, I tend just to not pick an item at all. And I just get angry at the shelf for having too many items and go back in the house. Like, I don't want to deal with it.
Yes.
I have to have structure because
guilty.
If I see too many problems at the same time, I can't deal with anything.
Yeah.
So I have to have some kind of structure.
Agreed.
So we got to build that better.
Yeah. So next week we will be talking about
the shipping side.
The shipping side and what we could do, because this is where the conversation really started when you were telling me how you guys do your shipping process. And it's really completely different from the way that I do my shipping process. And I'm sure that you might think, Ken, that's inefficient. And I'm thinking on yours, I'm thinking, I would never do it that way. And so we have some differences there and kind of take a little piece of yours, a little piece of mine, and kind of combine those, and one might get, a good efficient system. So
it was a good exercise though for each one of these. The last one we did in this one, I actually had to stop and write my process down, what we do. Just doing that, even if we don't talk about it all, just writing down what your process is has been a pretty good exercise because it made me take a different look at how we're doing things. When you see it on a piece of paper, you're like, well, that's dumb. Why do we do that?
Yeah, it's exactly it. And that's why, I found that I move stuff around. I touch things too much. I do, if I do the photograph, I think one little change of having the photographs first before I go to the listing part, I think that's going to be a big difference in where I go with stuff. And so, all right, we're going to wrap this one up. We went a little bit longer. So that's it. I guess
that's it, guys.
If I had one piece of advice, I would say, don't stare directly at the sun.